Eventually it came to my attention that there was a brother in the town centre congregation, an elder, who you might consider to describe as a spiritually strong person. Um, and he was a lovely guy, but he kept coming to my attention. And eventually I realised that this man was of the anointed. He wasn't partaking. He had been in that congregation since so long as I had been associating with Jehovah's Witnesses, so we're talking decades now. And he had failed to partake of the emblems. And, it was amazing to think that, something like this would mean the spirit leaves the congregation. You tend to think of some badness like some immorality or I don't know, whatever. There could be 100 things, but you wouldn't think that I wouldn't have thought that because somebody was failing to follow the prompting of the Spirit, they would leave the congregation over something like this. And I know that the leaders of the Watchtower organisation are thinking their problems are down to the internet and apostates and whatnot, but they're barking up the wrong tree here. Their problems are down to them. It's down to them giving out negativity to the anointed members amongst them. Basically blatantly ignoring these ones, not paying them any mind, not giving them any attention, and really domineering over them so that they do not partake. Anyway, this came to my attention. I spoke to the brother, I spoke to his wife, I spoke to other elders in the congregation, and I've had to leave it with them. But really, I'm making this video to speak to the leaders of the organisation, to say to them they need to fix up, basically. They need to do a number of things, not least to drop this idea that only they are the faithful and discreet slave. That is clear and outright apostasy. Once they've done that, they can talk then to other members as of the slave class. That wouldn't be difficult to do. They have special meetings for elders, they have special meetings for pioneers. They need to get together with those moral partakers amongst them. And it's not a question of the leaders talking to them. They need to listen to these ones and hear what they've got to say. And not least, they must drop this literal 144,000 teaching. It's created a terrible burden for these anointed ones to think they're one of that tiny, tiny little number. The number's a symbolic number, and another number still being gathered. The number of partakers will continue to increase. And by addressing this issue with the anointed, it will help resolve a number of other issues, like, for example, the 2-witness rule. Because I'm sure that the leaders will hear from another anointed members of the slave class that this must change. Anyway, in conclusion, I wanted to offer a few words of condolences to the Stewart family. I know that in the Bible there has been examples of God extending mercy and forgiveness. One example that came to mind was of King David. He caused the death of an innocent man, and for what did he do that? He was committing adultery with the man's wife and got the man's wife pregnant. So he then had to get rid of the man. So Lauren acted the way she did for much more noble reasons, out of love for her family. But that aside, Lauren showed strength. She stood up to the might of the Watchtower organisation and partook of the emblems at the memorial. she continued as a woman of faith. She never lost her love of God. She never lost her love of His Word. And I know, as her friend Joyce explained, she had been studying the immense image of in Daniel. And I've been looking into that lately myself, and I thought, wouldn't it have been so lovely to have communicated with her via internet and exchanged thoughts and ideas. But sad to say, this tragedy has happened, and now Lauren is added to a long list of members of Jehovah's Witnesses and ex-members who have committed suicide. I wanted to conclude with a scripture. It's in Luke chapter 18. It's Luke chapter 18 and verses 7 and 8. And it says there, "Certainly then, shall not God cause justice to be done for His chosen ones who cry out to Him day and night?" And verse 8 says, "I tell you, He will cause justice to be done to them speedily." So the situation with the Watchtower organisation requires justice to be done. Even with the measures put in place that I've said, justice will be done for the mistreatment of anointed ones and others in the Watchtower organisation. So thank you for your time. Bye-bye.